Hey guys, welcome to the Stinkin Truth Podcast. I am Mark Schlereth. He is Mike Evans. Mike, first off, thank you so much for joining us. I did get a mic. You can see the mic right here. So it's supposed to sound a lot better as far as you know. So we'll see exactly how this works. But Mike, it's always good to be with you, buddy. How are you, man?
Yeah, nobody cares about how you sound because it's just to be able to look at that porcelain skin of yours is really what matters the most.
Yeah, well, that's what they say. That's what they say. It's absolutely gorgeous. There's no question about that. How are you, buddy?
I'm good. I'm looking forward to some of the matchups this weekend, including the Super Bowl rematch. Let's jump right into that one with San Francisco and Kansas City. I know you can't make up for a Super Bowl loss in one regular season game, but doesn't it feel like this matters more to San Francisco when it comes to proving themselves against Kansas City?
100%. And, you think about this, it's a matchup of two elite, sides of the ball. And that is San Francisco's offense, but it's not Kansas City's offense. It's Kansas City's defense. When you think about Kansas City, you don't think necessarily, elite level defense right, and a struggling offense because of all the injuries and all the different things that have gone on. But in the bad picks that Patrick Mahomes is throwing, but that's exactly what it is. This is an elite level defense for Kansas City. And it's really interesting, Mike, because I think Brock Purdy is playing himself. He's last year, he was a front runner for the MVP right up until he played that Christmas game against Baltimore where he threw a bunch of picks and, Baltimore blew out San Francisco and all of a sudden it just kind of tumbled apart, right, toward the end of the season. But right now, he's still playing at that kind of quote-unquote MVP level or close to it. Not that anybody's talking about it. And he's done that without Christian McCaffrey. And so I was digging yesterday, just kind of the Christian McCaffrey effect, because a lot of people were telling me or reaching out to me saying, hey, listen, their run game is still really good. Their run game, with Jordan Mason, he may not play on Sunday, but Jordan Mason's been really good. They really haven't lost anything there. And I started thinking about it. I go, well, what do you lose when you lose a Christian McCaffrey? Obviously, the guy is a dynamic player. But I went back and just looked at the Super Bowl. How many catches do you think Christian McCaffrey had at the Super Bowl?
Oh, I was going to say at least 7, 8.
He had 8 catches for 80 yards and a TD. How many does Jordan Mason have on the season? 6 games.
7, 8.
8 catches for 75 yards. Now, here's the rub. Christian McCaffrey in the Super Bowl had a catch from outside the numbers, had a catch in the slot, had a catch out of the backfield, run a little option route, had a catch out of the backfield where they motioned him out and then caught it. Like Christian McCaffrey, what he does in the passing game, when he gets outside of the, of the box, if you will, or of the backfield, when he gets out there, he becomes a wide receiver. He can run any route out there in the route tree of a wide receiver. If you want to run a go, he can run a go. You want to run a post, you can run a post. You want to run a comeback, he can run a comeback. You want to run a deep dig, or a slant, he can do all those things. They don't use any of their other backs in that way because their other backs can't do that. So Jordan Mason has 8 catches on the season. All 8 of those catches, I went back and looked at every catch. I went back and looked at every play. All 8 of those catches come out of the backfield where he releases either on the outside, just outside the tackle, runs a little Texas route or an option. That Chris McCaffrey does that, or he releases, I call it, a West Coast offense, check B. So meaning you're going through the B gap, you're checking in protection, and then you're releasing, and a lot of times you're just turning around, right? You're just there, like a hitch. And so those are all of his catches this year. All 8 of them are releasing out of the backfield from the backfield. So they can't use him as a weapon. So how does that affect you as an offense? Well, all of a sudden, that matchup issue that you get with Christian McCaffrey outside the numbers or in the slot, you can't run that. So as a defense, you don't have to prepare for that, right? That's a moment in time where you have to spend, let's call it 20% of your assets and your study time and your preparation time in practice. You have to work on that stuff. Well, you don't have to work on that stuff with Jordan Mason in the backfield or any of the other running backs in the backfield. So it takes that away. And then the other thing that you'll notice is that all of a sudden that becomes a non-factor in the red zone. And if you look at San Francisco, what they did in the red zone last year versus what they're doing this year, It's a significant difference. They're struggling in the red zone compared to last year. So just the Christian McCaffrey effect, even though the rushing totals are not much different, it's those totals in the red zone, the catching the ball in different positions that are real different. And I would say this, if I'm San Francisco, and I know they had, I know they probably still a little bit, I don't know, hesitant to run their quarterback because of what happened to Trey Lance. And not that Trey Lance was going to be the answer anyhow, because I don't think he was. But I would love in the red zone to see Brock Purdy get some more opportunities running the football. The zone read stuff where you fake it in the belly of the running back, and then you pull the ball if the defensive end pinches down and you get to the edge. Now, one thing that Trey Lance did a lot was he ran a bunch of inside, like, quarterback power, quarterback counter, inside running plays. That's where he broke his ankle, where he fractured or broke his ankle. So I think that's one of the things that you're going to have to see if you can operate and use Brock Purdy and his athleticism a little bit more down to the red zone to increase your red zone scoring touchdown numbers. So that'll be interesting to me to see exactly if they can do that.
On the other side of it, Kansas City, undefeated, rolling along, all's good with the Chiefs, right? But do style points matter? Like, they're winning, they're undefeated, but their average margin of victory is only 5-6 points. How they're winning, does that cause any concerns for you?
Well, sure, Mike. I mean, I think ultimately defensively, we know they're playing really good football, right? And Steve Spagnuolo is a tremendous defensive coordinator, and they've made great adjustments in game. And so they have really become one of the best defenses in football. But certainly you would look at their offense, their lack of production on the offensive side of the ball. In their running game right now, Kansas City right now has 6 explosive runs, 10-plus yard runs on the season. That's the lowest total in the National Football League of explosive runs. And 2 of those explosive runs come on quarterback scrambles. So they have had 4 explosive runs, 10-plus yard runs in 5 games. They had the bye week. They're coming off the bye week. In 5 games, they've had 4 explosive runs from running backs. And one of those explosive runs, by the way, was in the first game of the season with Xavier Worthy took the reverse and scored 20-plus yards against Baltimore. So, that's a concern. Travis Kelce got off to a really slow start. They've targeted him more lately. So that has become kind of a kind of feather in the cap, if you will, for Travis and that offense. But still, wide receiver position, they're still developing guys. Xavier Worthy, is he going to become their go-to guy? I don't know. Juju Smith-Schuster really bounced out last week and was really good. But, there's a concern there. And then probably when you look at Mahomes, he's probably thrown more bad-looking picks this year than he has at any other time that we can remember during the course of his, unbelievable, illustrious career, if you will. So, yeah, there's a lot of question marks going in to this game. And yet the thing about Kansas City, be it offensively or defensively, Mike, that blows me away, and the reason it's really hard to pick against them, is in critical moments. They have this confidence about them in critical moments when things get tough, man. They just seem to be able to make a play, whether it's offensively, their quarterback making a play, whether it's defensively. They seem to be able to make a play in critical moments that wins them a football game. And we have seen it 3 or 4 times this season to win football games.
Knowing how to win. It's a very elusive, hard to find trait there for sports teams, trying to find that understanding of what it takes. The Chiefs certainly know how to win. What are the other big matchups? And I know I asked you to pick a winner for San Francisco and the Chiefs, but I have a feeling this game may show up in one of our moneymaker picks. So we'll have a chance to talk about that a little bit later on. Other big matchup, Detroit and Minnesota. And Mark, do I have to stop every week trying to look for reasons why Minnesota can't last, why this can't last? Do people like myself need to accept the fact Vikings ain't going nowhere?
Yeah. It's funny, Mike, because you and I had this conversation, and I was, stomping my foot, standing on the table for Sam Darnold and saying that the Broncos should sign Sam Darnold and saying that Sam Darnold was going to have a breakout season. And, and what I learned the last couple of games of last year, calling San Francisco games, talking to Sam Darnold. I spent 20 minutes on the field talking to Sam Darnold twice, not once, but twice. One in a meeting, last game of the season when he was going to start, I sat down in a meeting with him for 20, 30 minutes. And then obviously on the field, both of those games. So I spent about an hour talking to Sam Darnold and just kind of picking his brain about kind of what he learned and the progressions that he went through and what he learned early in his career versus being kind of that rehab situation for his quarterback rehab with San Francisco and with Kyle Shanahan. And I'm telling you, man, it was amazing to listen to a guy. And you love a guy that can look at himself critically and say, man, I knew nothing. Like, I knew nothing about football until I got with Kyle Shanahan. And then having opportunities to bet on yourself, right? Having opportunities to say, hey, man, this is the direction I'm going in. And I could go somewhere else and get more money, but I'd rather go somewhere where I think I'm going to learn something so that at least I can hopefully salvage my career, which at this point is a disappointment. And all those things are true about Sam Darnold. It's one of the things I loved about him. But I will tell you, Brian Flores, I think right now they're the number one team in football at presenting six-man fronts. So they bring a bunch of six-man fronts. I think they're the number two team in football as far as blitz is concerned. And, that's blitz it's like blitz or disguise, sometimes motion and offense. Like, I can give you all these different things that are great when they work, right? Like, disguise is awesome until it's not. Like, blitz is great until it's not. Like, motions and shifts are great until you keep getting, illegal procedure penalties, right? Mm-hmm. And they put you at first and 15 or second and 15. Like, they're great until they're not. And if you're a good football team, and, we used to say this when I was in Washington all the time when I became a member of the Hogs, and we were going to, in 1991, we just, kicked everybody's ass in the league. And we used to say it all the time, like, we begged them to blitz us. Please, for the love of Pete, blitz us. Because we're going to eviscerate your ass in the blitz. We're going to, because we know what we're doing. We're going to pick the blitz up, and then we're going to render it, useless. And we got a bunch of one-on-ones with Art Monk and Gary Clark and Ricky Sanders and all these guys, And I look at Detroit in this game because Minnesota ain't going to change who they are. Brian Flores ain't going to change who he is, man. They're going to give you a bunch of really tough looks right off the bat. They're going to line up all over the place. They're going to walk up linebackers, walk up safeties. They're going to do a lot of different things. They're going to have a safety on the edge of the ball that's going to be a deep middle field defender, They're going to do things that, look unsound, but they're very sound principled defense because they know exactly when they have to get where they have to get. But I will tell you, if you can pick that stuff up, Mike, I'm sorry. If you pick that stuff up, and I believe Detroit has one of the best, if not the best offensive line in the game. They've got two outstanding running backs. They've got a young tight end who can really play, in Laporta. They've got another tight end who can block people and can knock people around. They've got a couple of wide receivers. Jameis Williams is like, that dude can fly. He can block. He can do all that stuff. Amon-Ra St. Brown is as good as it gets. You and I are both very familiar with Tim Patrick. Timmy Pats has come back after back-to-back years where he missed with an ACL and Achilles tendon, and he's contributing. It's fun to watch. Mike, I personally feel like Detroit's going to beat Minnesota by 10 points.
Ooh.
And if they don't beat them by double digits, you know what? I'm going to have to go back and look at Minnesota again and go, okay, like, it's real. It is, and I think it's real, Mike. I really do think it's real. I think they're a really good football team. I think Detroit's the best team in the National Football League. That's how I feel about Detroit right now. I just feel they're great. Now, the one big issue, Aiden Hutchinson.
Yep.
And you're going to sit here for the next 3 weeks and you're going to figure this out. They right now, because their offense is so good, they get more opportunities to rush the passer than anybody, just about anybody. They're second in the league as far as rush opportunities. 70% of the time, teams are passing against them because their offense is good. You limit possessions. You control the tempo of the clock. You run the ball. You convert. You score points. You're getting an opportunity to rush the passer. But do they have a difference maker now that Aiden Hutchinson is down? And the answer is no. And so it'll be interesting to see, if now that Cleveland is getting rid of players, they got rid of Amari Cooper, is Myles Garrett, would they be willing to part ways with Myles Garrett? Would the Cincinnati Bengals be willing to part ways with Trey Hendrickson, who's a really, really good football player off the edge? The Raiders, would they be willing to go Max Crosby? Like Detroit, I do believe Detroit is the best team, but I do believe to stay on top or at least to win a championship, I really think they need a replacement for Aiden Hutchinson.
Again, this is a game I won't ask for a pick yet because I have a feeling it'll show up a little bit later on. Houston and Green Bay. This one's a really interesting matchup because of the young quarterbacks. And so let me pose this question to you. You're starting a team today, and you have your choice of which quarterback to build around, C.J. Stroud or Jordan Love. Who is it?
It is such a good question. I don't know that there's a wrong answer. Like, two guys are similar, right? I think more similarities than differences, if you will. And both have great leadership qualities, although C.J. Stroud had to start right away with his leadership qualities because he started from day one, right? And he grew through, mini camps and through training camp. And, when you sit down with him and you talk to him, he's one of those guys that just is like, he's just got some maturity, some old soul to him. He is just one of those kids that you're just like, wow. Like, I didn't have any of this at, 23 that he has right now. Like, he's got that about him. And he holds everybody accountable, and he holds himself accountable. And I just think he's a great teammate, and he's an exceptional player. Exceptional. And he's got weapons. He's got a really good team around him. Jordan Love, like, if you made me pick right now, Jordan Love, a couple of years older, sat behind Aaron Rodgers for a long time and really learned how to play, really took what Aaron had told him to heart. Like, man, you got to practice harder. You got to really work on your practice kind of process. And like, when you play against our defense, your job is to go out there and eviscerate our defense. Like, that's how you're going to grow in confidence, and that's how you grow in, hey man, I can make an off-platform throw. I can throw it from here, there, everywhere. Like, I can scramble around and hit the guy that's in stride and all that stuff. And so really taking that part of his craft seriously, I think gave the Packers confidence that they can move on from Aaron and that they were going to be okay with Jordan Love. I think from a dynamic athletic nature, Mike, I would take Jordan Love. Like, I think they're both that have mental maturity, both have physical maturity, both can lead their teams, both have accuracy and ability. I just think that when it comes to, the 30% of the time when things break down, I think Jordan Love has more athleticism. And I would probably, like, all those other things being equal or pretty close to equal, I think that I would probably pick Jordan Love over CJ. But boy, I tell you what, 6 and 1/2 dozen. How about you? Where would you go?
I think I would go with Jordan Love as well. Just for some of those same reasons. And but I will tell you this. It's a fascinating because you've got CJ Stroud, who started right away. You have Jordan Love, who got to sit for a little while. It's that classic NFL debate. What's the best way to bring along a young quarterback? Throw him out there, sink or swim, or bring him along slowly, maybe not even play for a year. Have you settled yet on one way that's better than the other in your mind?
No. I think it depends on the guy.
Yeah.
Like, they're going to be usually, CJ Stroud is the outlier. Usually there's going to be some really hard lessons to learn. It's like Peyton Manning, through 28 interceptions his rookie year. It went 3-13. It's still a record. He's still a record that he's hoping that somebody beats, right? Somebody throw more interceptions than me, please.
No rookie quarterback, by the way, would be allowed to throw that many picks anymore.
Right.
They would be so scared of a rookie quarterback throwing that many. They never let it get to that.
Right. It's just a different mentality. And our guys, are guys more mentally fragile. Like you got to be made of stern stuff to throw 28 picks and have a lack of success that he had and still have the confidence to throw it. Some guys that'll just ruin them. And so I think it depends on each individual guy and, how much experience he has coming out, how confident he is, like all those things matter. So it's all the intangible stuff that I think ends up, really kind of really messing with you, if you will, or really determining whether you can handle that starting right off the bat or whether it's better to sit for a while and learn from a veteran, all those kind of things. Yeah, back in my day, it was always sit a guy. I remember Carson Palmer sat his first year as a first-round draft choice to John Kitna, right? That stuff is what used to go down. It doesn't go down that way anymore. But, sometimes I think that's very valuable to sit and watch how it's done, to sit and watch how you become a professional. But then there are guys like C.J. Stroud that are just ready for that challenge and are ready to lead their team right off the bat.
As we sit here right now talking, we do not yet know who the starting quarterback will be for the Steelers Sunday night against the Jets. Does it matter in terms of how you evaluate this game, who you would pick to win, if it's Justin Fields or if it's Russell Wilson?
Yeah, I think for me personally, I think it's harder. I think it would be harder to defend Justin Fields because of the threat of the quarterback run. And Justin has played, Justin averages under 200 yards per game. I think he'll run 160 yards passing per game. He's got 5 touchdown passes, 1 pick. He hasn't taken a lot of sacks. He's only thrown 1 pick. And, he's got 5 rushing touchdowns. So he's got 10 total touchdowns. They're 4-2 right now. Here's the thing that is mind-boggling to me is you don't ever want to be embroiled in a quarterback controversy. Mm-hmm. And yet you've brought it on yourself, so to speak, right? You've created your own controversy. And you could just say, hey, man, Justin's our starter. We're 4-2. And you can move on. But this whole time you've said, well, Russ isn't healthy yet, so we'll evaluate when the time comes. And now it's, hey, Russ is going to get some of the reps, the first team reps. Now, I personally feel like, Mike, they're using that Russ is getting some of the first team reps to make the Jets prepare for Russ. So there is value in saying, hey, listen, if you take, even if it's 10% of your time, 10% of your energy focused on something that's not going to happen, that's 10% less you have to practice on the things that are going to happen. So you're going to have to take 10% of your preparation away from Justin Fields, away from that quarterback run game, away from what they do in the zone read, away from the RPO system, away from, all the things that he does do, and say, okay, what if Russ becomes a quarterback? Now I got to go back to see what he was in Denver under Sean Payton, see what he could be, and I've got to prep that stuff. And then I got to prep my players for that stuff. And then my players have to practice a little bit, just a smidge, 10%. So 10%, if let's say you're running 50 plays, okay? 50 plays on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Okay, now we've got to take 5 of those plays away from what we know we're going to get and devote 5 plays on Wednesday, 5 plays on Thursday, 5 plays on Friday, 15 total plays to the potential of Russ. And so that takes away, that 5 plays, that 15 total plays takes away from 15 total plays that you're getting against Justin Fields.
Right.
Then now you got to practice for Russ. And so I personally feel like this is a little gamesmanship because I can't imagine being 4-2 and saying, yep, I'm going to change my quarterback now. But that's the game we're playing right now. So we'll see exactly what goes on Sunday night when they take on the Jets.
Tom Brady is now part owner of the Las Vegas Raiders. He walked into the Raiders facility yesterday, got a hero's welcome. All the employees were there, and he walked in, and I don't understand how he's going to continue to be a broadcaster for Fox, but that's a different conversation. What I am curious is, even though he's a limited partner, I think we're talking about maybe 10% stake in the Raiders. Do you anticipate him being a real active participant, having a very active, influential voice in football decisions? There's already a report out there that he's going to aggressively pursue Bill Belichick to be the next coach of the Raiders. How much do you see Brady being involved in the daily running of the Raiders?
I don't know about the daily running, Mike, but the philosophical approach to the organization, I can definitely see him having a hand and a say in who becomes the next head coach if they decide to go that way away from Antonio Pierce. I think in all those kind of big decisions, his opinion will be heard and will be taken into consideration. And why wouldn't it be? I mean, that dude has had more success and knows more about football than just about anybody in regards to, what he was able to do, the championships he was able to win, all those things. So, yeah, I mean, if you're Mark Davis, you're certainly gonna lean on, Tom Brady. Any place you should start with your haircut. That's where you should start leaning on Tom Brady for haircut advice and clothing advice. That would be number one. And then football things. First off, just makeup tips and beauty tips. That would be my number one thing. Brady, take me away, like Calgon. Take me away and fix me up, right?
Give me a Brady makeover?
Yeah, Brady makeover. Yeah. First, bring your barber in here. And normally, when I go to the barber shop, what I do is I sit down in the chair. If you're Mark Davis, you say, hey, fuck this shit up. But if you're Tom Brady, I think what you have to do is say, hey, listen, first thing we're going to do is change your look a little bit, right? We're going to change your look. We're going to make you look beautiful. Boom, that's going to be the first thing. And then we'll talk about changing the coach. Then we'll talk about those things. But, yeah, I think that's the order of business for the Raiders.
I swear, sometimes you got to give me a heads up that these things are coming, because you catch me off guard with that, and I just lose it. Time for our moneymaker picks, man. I'll tell you, folks out there, listen to this man, Mark Schlereth. He is on a heater right now. 6 in a row, 6-0 the last 2 weeks. Back-to-back 3-0 weeks. You're now a glittering 12-5-1 for the season. I'm not bad, but I'm lagging behind at 10-8. So here we go. You get a chance to go first, and I didn't press you for picks on some of those games that we were talking about earlier, because I knew that they would probably show up here. So go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so my first pick, Bengals play the Browns. The Browns have basically punted on the season. The fact that they continue to trot out Deshaun Watson is an embarrassment. That dude couldn't play dead in a Western. They just got rid of their best receiver, who was having his worst year. Listen, Mark Cooper was all pro last year, and he caught 1,200 yards worth of passes from 5 different freaking quarterbacks.
Right.
And this year, Deshaun Watson, he can't produce at all. He's got more drops than anybody in the National Football League. So guys are bailing right now. The season is over. Wave the white flag. You know what? Listen, I look at the Bengals. They're fighting for their potential lives right now. They're another loss, and they're pretty much completely out of it. But if they go on a little bit of heater themselves, they can get themselves right back in the playoff hunt right now, sitting at I think they're 2-4. I like the Bengals giving up 5.5. I'm taking the Bengals to win this thing. Then I'm going to go to the Lions. I told you, I think the Lions are the best team in the NFL. The Lions are getting 1.5 right now. Minnesota, the favorite in this one. I think the Lions beat them by double digits. I think the Lions kind of flex their proverbial muscles. So I'm taking the Lions and getting the 1.5. And then lastly, 49ers and Chiefs, man, this is a great game. It's in San Francisco. The Niners favorite. It's basically a pick 'em. The Niners favored by 1.5. I'm taking the Niners. Not that this makes up for Super Bowl losses, but I think the Niners right now, I know the Chiefs coming off a bye week, Andy Reid coming off a bye week is ridiculous, but I'm going to go with the 49ers given the 1.5.
Okay, solid picks. And I'm going to counter with the C.J. Stroud-Jordan Love matchup. I like the Packers at home in this one, so I'll take Green Bay minus the 2.5. Philadelphia, at some point, it's put up or shut up time. And this team needs to start kind of, flexing their muscles if they have any to flex. So I'm going to take Philly minus 3. I think the Giants are developing kind of a solid blue collar attitude that they're not going to embarrass themselves, but they're so bereft of talent. I'll take Philly minus the 3 against the Giants. And then had a chance to watch the Chargers here last week against the Broncos. Very impressed with what Jim Harbaugh is doing there. This is a well-coached team that seems to know what their identity is. Arizona is still too flighty for me, so I'll take the Chargers minus the 2.5 against the Cardinals.
Yeah, I like those. I really looked at that Green Bay game quite a lot. I thought about taking that instead of San Francisco, but I decided to go with San Francisco because I have balls. That's
and because let's face it, you just have an insatiable man crush on the Shanahans. So
that you know what, that is a good point. It is a good point. It's my love for the Shanahans that I continue to take L's in Super Bowls.
One of these years, though. One of these years.
This is the year.
This is the year.
Hey, listen, for everybody involved in the Stinkin Truth podcast, thank you guys so much for listening. Thank you for downloading. Thank you for subscribing and doing all the things that you do out there. We truly appreciate that. And continue to subscribe, continue to share with your friends. We appreciate that. For Mike, I am Mark. We appreciate you guys. We'll be back with you guys early next week.